Today on the Big 3 and 30, Dybantsa declares for the NBA draft.
If he does not go number one in the NBA draft, I don't know what any of these NBA franchises are thinking.
Texas adds a guard out of the portal.
Texas has landed its fifth transfer portal addition.
And NC State gets some portal help as well.
There's now been a surprise commitment on the basketball side for Justin Gainey.
This is the Big 3 and 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 and 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 and 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. BYU star Dybantsa declared for the NBA draft after a freshman season that put him near the top of most draft boards. Jay Katz with Locked On Cougars gets into the decision.
Dybantsa moments ago announced he is headed to the NBA. He is entering the NBA draft, and let's be real. If he does not go number one in the NBA draft, I don't know what any of these NBA franchises are thinking. But I appreciate the way that he went about this, being very straight up about it, announcing the entrance into the NBA draft. Now, he did string us along a little bit by saying that he was going to have to talk to his mom, and his mom was the ultimate decision maker on all of this. But to be blunt, we all, and yourself included, we all knew this day was coming. And I appreciate the way that AJ has gone about his business at BYU, and it shows, I think, overall, the impact that this young man is going to have on BYU athletics, and I guess the BYU basketball program in particular. And I feel like even though it was a nice 9-month run, give or take a month or two, he is a guy that completely transformed what BYU is all about, especially when it comes to basketball and their perception nationwide. We talked earlier this week about some of the prospects out there that are taking note of what AJ did at BYU, what Kevin Young has done with guys like Jaeger Dielman and AJ. And obviously, that it allows BYU to get into the mix for a guy like a 5-star talent, the caliber of Bruce Branch III. CJ Rosser also is a guy that I think that BYU is very intrigued about as well, is that if you can get a guy like Rosser, who's considered by many to be the number one overall prospect in the 2027 recruiting cycle, who can't you attract to BYU basketball? Who can't you attract as an athlete to Brigham Young University? AJ completely transformed like I said, the overall perception and the overall feel for people when it comes to BYU athletics. And the impact he and his decision to go to Provo, to take the path less traveled, and to play for a program that many people thought he was crazy. Remember Stephen A. Smith, BYU, why not Duke? Well, he decided to try something different. He decided to step away from what most people would have done, going to a blue blood, the caliber of a Duke or a Kentucky, etc., Kansas. And he decided he wanted to put BYU on the map. And that's exactly what he did. I'm not going to say that he shouldn't get a place in the BYU Hall of Fame, because obviously BYU requires a handful of things. Most notably, you have to graduate from the university. You have to have a degree. And obviously AJ is just completing a freshman season, or at least a couple of semesters at BYU. If he ultimately ever does finish that degree, in my opinion, I would put him in the BYU Hall of Fame. He has had that level of impact as short as time in Provo has been. And I think the bigger thing is what we all expect and what we all anticipate is going to play out for him in the NBA, that being decade-plus run here that could net him millions upon millions of dollars. We're talking just life-changing, generational-type money, combined with his impact in pop culture with all the endorsements he holds, Nike, Red Bull, etc. This is a guy who's the feeling he leaves in Provo is about as favorable as one could hope for from a one-and-done prospect. He could have come to BYU and decided, you know what? I'm here to play basketball, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to ingratiate myself around the community. I am going to live in the gym. I'm going to play games, and I'm going to prep myself for the next level. He Trust me, he easily could have done that. I think some people expected him to do just that. In fact, he did quite the opposite. He was spotted at multiple sporting events, women's basketball and the like, and associated with his fellow students. He is a guy who ingratiated himself to the greater BYU community better than almost any athlete in as short a time as he's had in Provo than I can remember in many, many moons. And that's an awesome thing. And it leaves a legacy that is obviously going to endear him to BYU fans, will favorably think back on his time at BYU, notwithstanding the fact that their run in the NCAA tournament didn't last at all. They went one and done. Doesn't take anything away from what AJ accomplished in Provo and what he did and the impact he had in terms of just endearing himself to Cougar Nation. This is a guy who I firmly believe should be the number one pick in the NBA draft. If I were a GM and whatever franchise, in my case, I'm a big Utah Jazz fan. If I was lucky enough, the Utah Jazz won the number one pick in the NBA draft, I know they give you, it's probably like, I think it's like 5 minutes now to make your selection when that draft goes live in June. It would take me however long it took me to run that piece of paper up to the podium to hand it to Adam Silver. And with the number one overall pick, the Utah Jazz select AJ Dybantsa. Like, it is without a doubt, in my mind, a foregone conclusion that he should and will be the number one pick in the NBA draft. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but I'm, like 97% positive it's going to be him. Could be the odd circumstance that a franchise falls in love with a Cameron Boozer or a Darren Peterson, ultimately opts to take them over AJ Dybantsa. Sure, that could play out, but I'm telling you, that type of decision, you better hope it pays off in spades, because AJ has perennial all-star capability in him. I'm not saying that Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson, or otherwise don't have that in them, but AJ's two-way ability, the fact that he's 6'9", 6'10", handles the ball like a guard. He's got an improving shot, and the ability to attack in the mid-range is one of his calling cards. So long as he continues to expand that range and becomes a lethal three-point shooter, you're looking at a guy, and I know that he idolizes Kevin Durant, but isn't this a guy that is on the same career arc of being a Durant-like player in the NBA? Just saying, he's got body type, he's got the skill set, he has got everything within him to become an elite franchise cornerstone for whoever is lucky enough to draft him, whether it's the Sacramento Kings, whether it's the Washington Wizards. But I would love to manifest it for the Utah Jazz, but I also am a jaded Utah Jazz fan who has never watched that franchise with a pick of their own move up in the NBA lottery. Maybe this year is the year. Maybe the basketball gods will reward the Utah Jazz, and AJ Dybantsa's run in Utah will continue, because obviously he played at Utah Prep down in Hurricane, ultimately moved up I-15 to play in Provo, Utah at Brigham Young University. And could he move just about 30 miles north to the new Utah Jazz facility that's being built at the Southtown Mall, and then another 10 or so miles on into downtown playing at the Delta Center? Man, that would be a ton of fun to have it play out. But all the same, congratulations to AJ Dybantsa and his family. He is an incredible young man. And considering the platform he has, he's used it for great effect. Establishing the AJ Dybantsa Foundation, obviously helping out those less fortunate in his mother's native Jamaica, doing things in Africa where his dad, Aniset, is from. He's been absolutely incredible in using his platform for good. And that platform, well, it involves BYU, and he'll forever be inextricably linked with Brigham Young University, and that is going to pay dividends, I'm telling you, for years and years to come for BYU basketball. I think BYU athletics, and by extension, the entirety of the greater Brigham Young University campus. And that's an awesome thing to be able to say about a young man as young as he is. But I wish him the absolute best, good health, and I hope he goes out and absolutely dominates in the NBA, because I firmly believe he's got everything in his tool belt to be that type of a player. And we'll see how it all plays out over the next handful of years. But the fact that he will forever be linked to BYU, that's an awesome thing to have in their back pocket. Speaking of Kevin Young, Brian Santiago, and the rest of the BYU athletics community.
The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. As we round out the regular season, the Celtics play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden tonight. Line is at -5 on FanDuel. If you want to go the other way, Boston money line is 176, plus 176 on that line. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Texas added another portal piece with St. Mary's guard Mikey Lewis transferring in. Brad Kellner with Locked On Longhorns gives his thoughts on the move.
Texas has landed its 5th transfer portal addition in the last 2 weeks. And this one might be one of the most important fits yet. Former St. Mary's guard Mikey Lewis has committed to the Longhorns, and Sean Miller continues to put on a roster building masterclass. Let's start with Lewis himself before we talk about the entire roster and what things are shaping up to be. Mikey Lewis is a 6'3" combo guard from Oakland, spent the last 2 years, the first 2 years of his college career at St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference. With the Gales, he went from sixth man as a freshman, a guy who played a pretty big role in his first season 2 years ago, to full-time starter as a sophomore. And not only did he start in year 2, he was a first-team All-WCC performer in year 2. This past season, he averaged 14 points per game, shot nearly 37% from three-point land, shot over 88% from the free throw line. If you're a Texas fan who watched this team this past year, especially in the month of March, you know the Longhorns could use all the free throw shooting that they can get. And here's the key with Mikey Lewis. You hear those shooting stats and think, he's just a shooter. This is a high-usage, low-turnover guard who can create his own offense. He can catch and shoot, but he can also get shots for himself and can help facilitate for other guys as well. This is a talented piece and a skill set that is going to translate to the SEC. I have zero doubt in my mind. Think of Lewis as a microwave scorer with real shot-making ability. He can heat up quickly. He's comfortable pulling up from deep. He can also operate as a secondary ball handler. And I know that West Coast Conference is not the best league in college basketball, but it is far from the worst league in college basketball. And he had some really, really impressive games. One of his best games of the season, the Gales regular season finale, and an upset win over Gonzaga. And Gonzaga is a college basketball powerhouse that did lose to Texas in the round of 32 this past year, of course. But the Zags are a great program that obviously was a 3 seed in this tournament. In that regular season finale, Mikey Lewis went for 31 and made 7 threes. He was 7 of 13 from beyond the arc, scored 31 points, and was a huge part of St. Mary's pulling off that upset. He also had a 28-point game earlier in the season. He had multiple 20-point outbursts, had a really good game against Vanderbilt earlier in the year, obviously an SEC team. This is not just empty production and padding stats against a bunch of nobodies. This guy is a big-time shot maker who got it done against some very, very good competition in his first 2 years of college basketball. Is he perfect? No. He's not an elite finisher at the rim. He doesn't get to the free throw line a ton. When he gets there, he knocks him down, but he's not a high-volume free throw shooter. Defensively, he's okay. His metrics slipped a little bit as he was asked to do more offensively. But here's the thing. He's not going to be asked to be the guy at Texas on offense or defense. He just fits in to what the Longhorns are already building. And that's why this fit is so interesting, because when you look at this roster, I mean, look at the other 4 pieces that Texas has added in the portal so far. Isaiah Johnson from Colorado, lead guard, a bucket getter, a guy who averaged 17 points per game at Colorado in the Big 12, the best conference in the sport this past year. David Punch, 14 points, 7 rebounds, almost 2 blocks a game at TCU. Your starting power forward who does a little bit of everything on both ends of the floor, an elite rebounder and a really good shot blocker and defensive player as well. Elijah Freeman, coming in from Auburn. Versatile wing, gives you a little spunk offensively. He's a crazy athlete, but also a very good defender who can guard 1 through 5. Amari Evans coming in from Tennessee. I guess I went a little out of order with the commitment dates, but Amari Evans, a defensive first guard with plenty of offensive upside. And now you add Mikey Lewis, who's an offense first player who can create his own shot, can catch and shoot, again, can help facilitate for others as well. It's ridiculous. Obviously, Matas Vokatitis, your anchor in the middle, coming back for another year. Austin Gooseby, the 5-star freshman, the McDonald's All-American coming into the mix. Bo Ogden, Texas's other big-time signee in this high school class, was just named Mr. Basketball in the state of Texas earlier this week. Yeah, I mean, the backcourt rotation is crazy. And again, this whole roster is coming together. It's not done. That's the scary part for everybody else. But wow, wow, wow. We were all curious what the investment into Texas basketball was going to look like, because it is basketball. It's not football. It's not baseball. Basketball is kind of third fiddle here on the 40 acres. I wasn't sure how much Sean Miller was going to get to work with. And I think his run to the Sweet 16 definitely helped get some folks to buy in literally to what he is selling. If Texas loses in the first 4, I don't think they're putting together this roster, but those 3 wins in 5 days, and if they call a push off on Trey Flopman-Wren on that putback at the buzzer, Texas might have made it to the Elite 8 this year. That got people, again, confident and believing in Sean Miller. So, wow. Where does Lewis fit? I mean, this is where it gets fun, because there's multiple paths that Sean Miller can take here. He can be the 6th man and give you instant offense off the bench. Come in, change the tempo, give you a little spark. Texas did not get nearly enough production from its bench this past year. So you get that scoring punch from a guy like Mikey Lewis with your second unit. That would be huge. You could have 3 guard lineups, right? You could play him alongside Isaiah Johnson and Austin Gooseby and start all 3 of those guys with David Punch at the 4 and Matas Vokatitis at the 5. And then boom, Elijah Freeman is your 6th man coming off the bench, giving you some upside. I mean, those 3 guard lineups, obviously whoever you start, you can rotate guys throughout the course of the game. But how about your floor spacing with Johnson and Gooseby and Lewis, the type of shooters that those dudes are? That is some serious versatility, which is something that elite teams have. Maybe we're talking about Mikey Lewis being a day 1 starter over the freshman Austin Gooseby, and Gooseby is your 6th man. I don't know. Regardless, Texas is in a very good spot. Like, not being sure who your starting 5 is going to be because you have too many good players, that's a first world problem if there's ever been one. We're crying from a yacht here. Last year, Texas, they didn't have 5 good enough players to really field a starting lineup. It's like, Cam Heide had to start, but everybody knew he wasn't a starting caliber player in the SEC. Texas didn't have any other options. Now it's like, oh no, we're at 6 or 7 guys who are good enough to start in this league. And again, there's still more pieces coming. And oh, by the way, I'm not including Dalen Swain, who still has yet to make his final decision on whether or not he's going to stay in the NBA draft. But wow, what an offseason. What an offseason already. 5 transfer portal additions. This portal class ranks 2nd in the country, behind only Louisville. A mix of proven production, a mix of high-end upside. And oh, by the way, maybe my favorite part of what Sean Miller's doing right now, all 5 of these pickups have multiple years of college eligibility remaining. So these are not just one and done. These are not just rentals. Like, hey, 1 or 2 of these guys could end up going pro after next year. That's obviously not a bad thing. That means they've had a great season. But Sean Miller wants a core. He doesn't want to have to go this hard in the portal every year. He wants guys that he can coach and develop and build chemistry together. So Texas is not just good in the 26-27 season, but they're good the following year as well. I love that way of roster building. And of course, all of this coming after Sean Miller led the Longhorns to the Sweet 16 and got his team playing its best basketball late. You're adding talent, but you're adding it to a system that has proven to work in the most important time of the year. We've seen talented Texas rosters before. Heck, a couple of days ago, we asked the question, does Texas have its best or at least most talented starting 5 in school history? I made the case that the answer might be yes. Now you just add Mikey Lewis to the fold. You got ball handlers. You've got shooters at every position. You've got experience. You've got upside. You've got NBA talent, and you've got defense. I know Mikey Lewis is not like the defensive pickup of this class, but We all know how bad the Longhorns were on that end of the floor last year, and it killed Sean Miller. I think it took years off his life. Texas is going to be much better on the defensive end, and that is much needed after what we saw in year one. But wow, depth, scoring, flexibility, versatility. This is legit. Obviously, Texas had so much to replace with Tremont Mark and Jordan Pope and Kendall Weaver all graduating, multiple rotation players to the transfer portal. Modest Fokatitis, your only rotation guy coming back. Again, we'll wait and see what Dalen Swain does. But a lot of usage, a lot of scoring gone. We had no clue what this roster was going to look like. And now, wow. I mean, since Texas moved to the SEC, they've been a middle-of-the-pack team in the conference, but this roster, it feels different. This is one of the most talented rosters in the conference. It's one of the most talented rosters in the country. I mean, John Rothstein has Texas as a top 10 team right now, and is Rothstein way too early, top 45, whatever he calls it. This is a second weekend of the tournament roster, and I'm not talking about an 11 seed that just gets hot at the right time and they make – no, this is like a top 16 seed, like Sweet 16 type of roster that Texas has right now. And man, if these pieces all fit together, Sean Miller's able to coach these guys up and get them playing well together. We're talking about a team that could make a push for maybe the third weekend, if you know what I mean. Wow. It's not just about Mikey Lewis, but it's a great pickup. But his addition represents Texas absolutely dominating the portal right now. Sean Miller, man. I tried to tell y'all, I was excited about the hire last year when it happened. I know not everybody was bought in because his previous few years at Xavier weren't great. Guy knows what he's doing. And he was great at Arizona. Remember, he got fired because he paid players. What a concept. How dare he try to do that? Thankfully, it's legal right now, and Texas is reaping the benefits. What's next? There's still a couple of scholarships available for this team, and might be another great player. First team all-conference player this large. Are you kidding me? As the fifth pickup? I'm giddy right now, y'all. You know how much I love Texas basketball. You know I dream, and I've dreamed since I was a little kid of Texas being considered a basketball school. Not over football, not over anything else. I want to be an everything school, but I love college hoops, man. I'm a college hoops junkie, and I got a smile on my face right now because of what's happening on the 40 acres.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves. It's over at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support your show by saying you heard about Indeed right here. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. NC State picked up front court help with Washington State transfer Eemeli Yalaho heading to Raleigh. Grayson Boone and Kenton Gibbs with Locked On Wolfpack have the details.
There's now been a surprise commitment on the basketball side for Justin Gainey. I know everyone's kind of looking at this name and wondering, one, where did it come from? And two, how do you pronounce it? It's much easier than you think. His first name is pronounced Eemeli, like the girl version, like Emily. Last name is Yalaho. Eemeli Yalaho of the Washington State Cougars has committed to NC State. A 6'8" forward, 235 pounds, played this last year out in Pullman, Washington. 2 years before that, he played at Texas Tech, which is interesting because I quickly went to his Instagram and found out, yeah, he's pretty good friends with Darian Williams. Maybe that had something to do with this commitment. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Today is also Darian Williams' birthday, so happy birthday to D5. But Eemeli Yalaho, almost butchered it again. Eemeli Yalaho, welcome to the pack. a commitment out of purely left field. I don't know. I've never seen anyone talk about this name, bring up this name. If we're being 100% honest, and I'll be transparent as I always am, this is the first time I've ever heard of Eemeli Yalaho. And this is no disrespect, but this is me actively learning that there is a human on this earth with the name of Eemeli Yalaho. But looking at his stat sheet, looking at some clips in the last 20 to 25 minutes, I was actually not even home when this broke. So I'm truly playing catch up in real time here. This looks like a very sneaky good get. And it's easy to say that about everyone in the transfer portal season because you don't really know what you're going to get. And a lot of times you're looking at the name, where they came from, the team they played for. It's like, oh, yeah, he's going to be a perfect fit. But truly, in the last 20 to 25 minutes, what I've seen in limited capacity from Yalaho here, I don't know, Kenton, this could be a hidden gem in the portal for Gainey.
You know, we talk about big bodies. We talk about what we are lacking right now. We talked about the fact that Evans is a little light in the behind. Yalaho does not have that problem. He's a bigger guy. He's got a little bit of size to him. And I'm going to tell you something. I like the way that Gainey is building this roster out. I really do. We've got a lot of really quality bigs. We've got some depth bigs, and we've got some instant offense guards. I like it. I like it. You combine that with what Gainey wants to do defensively, I think you got something special on your hands. But I kept wondering, what offensively are we going to do? And I think that this is telling us something. Hear me out. I'm doing my best Brian Windhorst here. If we weren't going to be a running gun offense, why would you need this many bigs? You see what I'm saying? Like, we all know the big guys just get tired quicker. It's more body to move than with the guards and whatnot. And we continue to go more and more and more and more big guys. Why? The answer seems very simple to me. It's because we're going to be moving. It's going to be a frenetic pace offensively. And with that being said, you combine that with Justin Gainey's defensive philosophy of contest every single shot, you might need a good amount of bigs. You might need, to kind of switch your bigs in hockey ships where it's like, hey, get a whole new line of guys in there, and we'll see what this does. But I like it. I like it a lot.
And adding on top of that, in addition to a stretch four that moves extremely well at his size, again, that's 6'8", 235. When you're looking at the proposed game plan for what this team and what the skill sets are going to consist of, this is a stretch four that shot threes at a high volume for Washington State. He put up 128 attempts from beyond the perimeter this year, and he sunk 39% of them. So if you're looking for comparisons, like I like to do on this show, kind of ironically, the way that this commitment has come about, it's kind of like Jerry Dang from last year. There was no mention of Jerry Dang beforehand, no whispers of visits or communication. Just all of a sudden one day in the middle of the day, boom, Jerry Dang is committed to NC State. Well, here we go again, but this time it's Eemeli Yalaho, kind of in the same exact fashion. But again, when you're talking about a stretch four position here, much like what we thought Jerry Dang would be, or honestly, if you want to go back a couple years further, it's almost like a Jack Clark. If you remember Jack Clark, who then transferred to Clemson and then transferred to VCU, Jack Clark was kind of a stretch four, although we seemed like we couldn't really figure out what we wanted him to do from game in and game out. Sometimes just 3, sometimes just 4. Couldn't utilize his size as much as we probably should have. But Eemeli Yalaho is a very interesting type of prospect to chew on here. He averaged 10 points a game for Washington State, 5.7 rebounds. So he's a physical type stretch four. He'll get in the paint and grab a board for you. That's going to come in handy for this team, of course. 1.7 assists, 47% shooting overall. And then, like I said, 39.8%. So damn near 40% from three. That's a stretch four. Assuming that this guy's going to play a decent amount. I mean, he played 28.4 minutes a game for the Cougs. I think this is a really sneaky good get. And I don't want to oversell this. And of course, you don't want to undersell anything either. But looking at Gainey and how he's moving in the darkness and quietly going about his business, contacting a wide net of prospects here, I think there's a lot to like here on paper. And I know it's a generic saying, but just spend like 10 to 15 minutes looking at clips of Yalaho. Like I said, he's not going to be LeBron James. You can't expect anybody to be LeBron James, but you can utilize the skill sets best, which is being that stretch four, the mobility that a guy like him has. He can shoot the three ball at times. think he could be a very valuable weapon for us.
You know, when you think about what you could get out of a guy like this who can shoot in that manner, again, my biggest belief with Gainey and with his offensive coordinator who he brings over from Georgia, I believe two things. Guys are going to shuffle the puppies. Guys are going to take threes. This is a good fit for that, right? This is a situation where you're going to be looking at, hey, at some point in time, we are going to have to, like I said, play more guys. We're going to have to play more bigs. We're going to have a diverse skill set out of those bigs as well, because as much as I joke about, hey, P2, if you come back, we got some big fellas that ain't going to do nothing but set screens to get you open. You still want those guys to be legitimate threats wherever on the court to, you know, knock one down and keep defenses honest. 40% from deep is a whole hell of a lot more than keeping you honest, okay? That's in the scouting report. Hey, don't give them that. So ultimately, you know, this is great news. Ruben Bay may be going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which makes me a little sad, but this is great. this is what we want to see here at Locked On Wolfpack.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.